A new kind of war on drugs. President Trump now says the U.S. is in armed conflict, targeting cartels like terrorists. Plus, a fireball at a West Coast refinery lights up the night. What's contained and what's still burning? And a nearly 90-year mystery may be cracked. New images from the South Pacific could pinpoint Amelia Earhart's final flight. The stories that matter, clear and credible. From across the country to around the world. These are your unbiased updates from Straight Arrow News. Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. We begin with a stunning shift in U.S. military posture. President Trump has declared the United States is now in armed conflict with drug cartels, according to a confidential notice sent to Congress. The memo states cartel members, now designated as terrorists, can be targeted as unlawful combatants, similar to ISIS or al-Qaeda. It follows a series of U.S. military strikes on Venezuelan boats, supposedly carrying stashes of drugs and cartel operatives, as well as a growing buildup of American naval forces in the Caribbean. But the move is facing pushback. Members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, say Trump should seek war powers approval. And some legal scholars warn the strikes may violate U.S. law by using the military for law enforcement. In a new escalation, Venezuela's defense minister claims 5 U.S. F-35 fighter jets buzzed its Caribbean coast Thursday in what he calls a provocation. Day 3 of the government shutdown, and the Senate is set to reconvene this afternoon in hopes of getting a deal done. Meanwhile, the White House is sounding the alarm. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the threat of mass layoffs and canceled federal programs is very real.
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very good question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today. These discussions and these conversations, these meetings would not be happening if the Democrats had voted to keep the government open.
President Trump said on Truth Social that he's meeting with Russ Vought, known for his role in Project 2025, to decide which, quote, Democrat agencies should be cut. Leavitt added that thousands of federal workers could be let go. As for a path out, senators remain split over a House-passed plan to extend funding for 7 weeks. Democrats are demanding guarantees on health care tax credits tied to Obamacare and curbs on the president's power to slash already approved funds. They say they're ready to make a deal, but only if it's the right one.
Republicans have shut the government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans. House Democrats continue to be here, on duty. House Republicans are on vacation. We are ready, we are willing, we are able to sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, including the president and the vice president.
A massive fire at an oil refinery lit up the Southern California sky. Wait till you see this, sending flames soaring, smoke billowing, and neighbors indoors. Look. The fire broke out around 9:30 last night at Chevron's El Segundo refinery near L.A. A fireball erupting right there into the night sky. Chevron called it an isolated incident, and this morning firefighters do have it contained. The company says all employees and contractors are safe and accounted for. There were no evacuation orders, but Manhattan Beach officials did urge residents to shelter indoors as a precaution. The El Segundo facility is the largest refinery on the West Coast with more than 1,000 miles of pipeline and the capacity to process nearly 300,000 barrels of crude oil a day. Again, the fire is contained, and investigators are working to determine what sparked it. A replica sword, a royal gift, and a career in public service suddenly cut short. Ahead of President Trump's recent state visit to the UK, the administration wanted a symbolic gift for King Charles, specifically a sword once owned by Dwight D. Eisenhower, honoring his role as Supreme Allied Commander in World War II. The Eisenhower Presidential Library houses several of those swords. Here you're about to see Eisenhower is seen receiving Napoleon Bonaparte's sword in 1945. Wow, amazing. But when a State Department liaison emailed about borrowing one using a personal account under the name Gift Girl 2025, the library said no. The artifacts, he explained, belong to the American people. That director, Todd Arrington, says he was forced to resign this week. After 30 years of government service, he tells the New York Times and CBS News that he was told he could, quote, no longer be trusted with confidential information. Arrington denies ever criticizing the Trump administration, but believes the sword standoff may have cost him his job. Instead of the real deal, Trump ultimately gifted King Charles a replica, a cadet saber from West Point. Well, this is fascinating. After 88 years of speculation, could the mystery of Amelia Earhart finally be solved? A team from Purdue University says there is very strong evidence they have located Earhart's long-lost plane, pointing to this satellite image of a visual anomaly in a lagoon on a remote South Pacific island. The object, dubbed the Taraya object, has appeared in photos as far back as 1938, just a year after Earhart and her navigator vanished. Researchers plan to head to Nikumororo Island next month to scan, lift, and possibly identify what they believe could be the famed Lockheed Electra. Earhart had planned to return that very plane to Purdue, where she worked before her final flight. If this really is the lost Electra, her final mission may still land where she hoped, in a truly roundabout way. Finally this morning, we're turning to your questions and comments. This is Straight From You, where we fact-check claims, separate fact from fiction, and call out what's murky. So here's what stood out this week. First, the government shutdown. Everybody's talking about it, right? Or at least paying attention. A viewer put it bluntly. ICE works unpaid. The military works unpaid. Congress still gets paid. Well, you're not wrong, but there is some nuance. Here's the deal. When funding stops, federal agencies activate shutdown plans. Simple enough. Civilian workers may be furloughed. Accepted staff like ICE, TSA, and Border Patrol keep working without pay until the funding resumes. The same goes for active duty military. A 2019 law now guarantees back pay for both groups, but members of Congress, they still get paid. That's because their salaries come from a permanent appropriation in the Constitution. Yep, shutdown or not. Next up, the story of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing strict changes in the military this week. A viewer said they once saw a soldier refuse a uniform order and flash a yellow stress card. So here's the reality. Stress cards that allow troops to skip orders? Not a thing. Snopes traces it to the 1990s, when the Navy briefly gave out cards with hotline information. However, they were not excuses, and the practice ended quickly. The Army had tools to measure stress, not stop training. The Defense Department has debunked this myth for years. Why are we hearing about it again? Because Hegseth and President Trump just pushed a tougher warrior ethos at Quantico. Fitness tests, grooming standards, and tougher training. In making the case that training got too soft, Hegseth invoked stress cards on Fox News with Laura Ingraham, which keeps the legend alive. By the way, the producer of this segment is a U.S. Marine, and he has never seen a stress card. All right, number 3. A lot of you are asking about the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. A viewer put it this way. Here's the question. With a grand jury vote of just 14 out of 23, how can prosecutors possibly get a unanimous 12 out of 12 jurors to convict at trial? That's a sharp and good question. It gets to the heart of the legal hurdle. Indeed, the vote to indict was 14 out of 23. That clears the probable cause bar, but just barely. To get a conviction, prosecutors need all 12 trial jurors to agree beyond a reasonable doubt, a much higher standard, obviously. That narrow grand jury margin, legal analysts say it's a red flag, a tough road ahead for sure for the government. Keep dropping comments on our YouTube, asking questions, and we'll tackle the biggest ones next week. Before we go, here's what we're tracking today. At 10, Sean Diddy Combs is set to be sentenced for 2 felony counts of prostitution. He faces up to 10 years for each. At 11, House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune hold a press conference on day 3 of the shutdown. Later this morning, the man accused of breaking into Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's mansion will be formally arraigned. And at 1, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt holds a briefing at the White House. Hey, we can't help find your phone, but we can help you find the facts. Sign up for our newsletter. Go to san.com/newsletters. Those are your unbiased updates for this Friday. We'll see you back here next week. For all of us at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a fantastic October weekend.